Hello everyone, welcome to class 2 of this Python full course. So in the previous lecture, we talked about lists and also we talked about OOPS programming. So we will continue our discussion to understand. In this particular video, we will be talking about a new type of data structure, that is tuples. But before proceeding to that, let's talk a few more things about list. I will just like to mention, for example, let us say we have a list of x is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now we know that if we have to get the first element, let's say I have to guess the first element of the list, what will I do? It's very simple, that we discussed. So to fetch the first element, I will do x and I will play 0 and I will get equal to 1. Okay. Now if I have to get the second element, let's say if I have to get the second element, it is again the same. Third, we know what are we going to do. Okay. So like for second, we will do x1 equal to 2. We'll get for third, we'll get x3 equal to x0 1 2, so it should x2 will be equal to 3. Okay, so this is if we want to retrieve these lists from this point. Okay, now another point comes, what if I want to, let's say there's a list with 1000 values. So how do I and I want the value from, let's say, second last value. So I don't want value from the start, I want value from the end. So what will I do there? So let's say I want first element from last. Okay, to get the first element from the last, what we are going to do, it is very simple. We are going to do x, and because it is starting from their end, so we'll do -1. Okay, so this is how we are going to do. So numbering starts. So whatever, for example, let's say this is a list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say this is my list. Okay, so the numbering, if I have to talk about how numbering works in Python, is if I have to start from here, it will start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I have to start from end, I will make it -1, -2, -3, -4 and -5. So let's have a look at this with an example. So let's go to our Python notebook. Let me open a new Python notebook. Okay, so let's say we have a list. Let's say I create a list x equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just taking a very basic example. Now presently, if I print x, we all know that we are going to get the list x. Okay, so if I have to get the value from the start, we know I will do x0. So if I do x0, I'll get 1. If I do x of, let's say, 4, I will get 5. But now I want to fetch the values from the rear end. So what will I do? So if I have to get the last value of any list, I will do x -1. Okay, so this will fetch me the value 5. If I have to get the, let's say, third value from the last, so what will be it? It will be x -3. So a minus sign is important if I want to fetch a value from the rear end. So you can choose any method you want. Let's say if you want to start counting from the first point, you can do in a positive number, or if you want to start counting from the rear end, then you can choose the number from the end. So this is one of the concepts which I think I didn't cover in the last video. So you can remember this particular thing. After this, I will just explain one more concept of inferencing or getting the numbers from a list or from any tuple, for example. So let us say I have this list again. Let's say x is equal to 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. So let us say I have to fetch this. We have a list. Now there are two things. So first thing is to get a range. If I have to get a range of numbers. Okay, so what I'm going to do, so let's say I want a sub list from this particular thing. So let's say we know that this particular thing is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now let's say I want a list 2, 3, 4. So what I can do is I can do X. I have to give the starting point. So what will be my if I have to fetch this list, what will be my starting index? It will be 0, 1, 2. So remember, start index, it always included. Okay, and then you have to give a semicolon like this, and after this we have to go till 4th position. We have to go till the 4th index. So what we will do, we will use 5. Remember, it's very important, we cannot use 4 here because this part is not included. Okay, so how does it look like? If I have to generalize it, let's say X, then I have to make it start point, start index. I will say start index, comma end index plus 1, because end index is not counted. So if we do this, we will get a list like 20, 30, 40 and 50. Okay, so let's let's see this in this particular example itself. So let's say we have a list X is equal to 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. Okay, now let's say I want so let's say I do X. So first let me run this. Okay, now I will do X 2. So it will be third element, 0, 1, 2. So until I want the endpoint. So what is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll put a 5 here. Okay, so now when I put this, so I'll get 30, 40, 50. So that is how you can fetch a range of values by passing a certain list. So this is how it is done, and let's test if we can get the values from the rear end. So let's say if I do X, I want to get the last 3 values. So what should I do? Should I do -3 to right? So we have to do like this because now if I have to get a value from the last third value till the end of the list. Okay, so what will I do? I will provide -3. -3 will be my start index, right? And my last point, it has to be 5th. So I cannot make it -1. So I'll just place 2 dots here and it will give me the result. So if I have to get a range of values, as I mentioned, so what will I do? So if I have to get values from the end, if I have to get list from end, so what will I do? It will be X, my start point in negative form, right? And then this will be my this index and this will be my another index. So after this index, whatever this is generally called the stepping statement. For example, by default it is 1. So let me show you that example, what I mean. So let's go back to our code. So let's say we have this. Okay, now let's say I want to start from 1, but I want to skip. I want first, I want third, and then I want 5th. I only want these 3 lists. Okay, so let's say I want these 3 only. So what will I be doing is just give me a second. Okay, yep. Okay, so if I have to get the value, so what I can do is X. So I will start from 1. Okay, and I have to go till 1, 2, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So X has to start from 0. Okay, so if it is starting from 0, you can leave it like this as well, or you can put a 0. Okay, after this tells me the endpoint. So here my endpoint is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have to make it 5. Okay, and after this I have to tell how many incremental steps do I want. By default, if I don't provide this, it will be 1. But if I make it 2, so what it will do, it will start from 10, then it will take 30, and then it will take 50. Okay, so this is how it works. So let me generalize it a little bit. So if I am just a second. So if I am addressing, so if there is a list like X, so it will be my start point. The first is my start point. Okay. After that, I will give a column like this, and this will be my end point plus 1. And after this, it will be my incremental steps. Incremental steps. By default, incremental step is set to 1. So if you don't provide this thing, this is an optional thing. If you don't provide this thing, it will assume it to be 1. So for example, let's try different cases. Let's say we have to start from zero index, okay, and we have to go till third index with an incremental value of 1. So we can either make it like this, or we can make it like x0 3 1. Okay, so this is how it will work. Now let us say we want to give an incremental step from, let's say I want to start from index 2 and I want to go till index 6, and I want an incremental step of 2 6, and I want an incremental step of 2. So I can do something like this. So this is how you I'll suggest that you basically fetch values from a list. One of the last thing is how to reverse a string, reverse a list. Okay, if you have to reverse a list, so what you need to do is you need to do X, that is you need to provide the list name. So starting point can be 0. So you have to leave it like this, you have to leave it like this. And last point, incremental step, you have to leave it as -1. So if you do this, your list will be reversed. So what is happening, that you are saying that I want all the values in the list and it's just the minus in the negative order. Okay, so -1 means that only. So for example, let's look at this. Let's look at this case. Let's say this was my string. So list. Okay, let's say this was my string. Now if I do X -1, okay, so I will get 50 40. So this is how my list is reversed. So these kind of slicing options are present to you. So please keep this particular thing in mind. So this is all we want to know. Now we will start our journey, our concept of tuples. Okay, so let's begin the discussion on tuples. So we talked about list. So list is one type of data structure. Tuples is another type of data structure. So tuples is so for example, let's say how to identify list, you create a square bracket. And how to identify tuples are in curly brackets. So tuples are in these type of brackets. Okay, so what is the difference between a tuple and a list? I mean, these rest everything is same. I mean, you store values in a list, you store values in a tuple, but how these brackets are different than these square brackets, right? What is the distinction between tuples and so for example, let's talk about a case that you have few things. For example, let's say you are preparing a grocery shopping list. So let's say you are preparing a grocery shopping list. Okay, so you plan that, okay, I have to go for a grocery, I have to buy 3 items. So for example, let's say you planned that okay, I will buy, let's say I have to get fruits, I have to get vegetables. Okay, and let's say we plan that, okay, we have to buy for example soft drinks. Okay, so we decide that we want this. So what happened? Remember when we do actually grocery shopping, we used to create these things when all these digital pads were not there. We used to write them on a piece of paper and carry with us to grocery shops. That's what we, at least I used to do, right? Now what happens suddenly? Let's say you decide that okay, no, I don't want vegetables. I have vegetable, so I have to create a new. I mean, I have to change this list. So what you do generally, you cannot, because you have already created this list in a paper, right? You cannot now you cannot change it here. So what you will do, you will create a new list in a paper, which will contain, let's say, fruits. Okay, let's say now I don't want vegetable, let's say I want ice cream now. Okay, and soft drink remains same, soft drink remains same. So what happened, that we thought that we created a list, but during the course we realized that okay, we have to change something, right? So there you cannot make adjustments in the same in the same sheet. You will have to create a new sheet, or I will say a new piece of paper you will have to write. So this is called tuples. So tuples and list structurally they are same. So you, whatever, let's say you take, whether you take fruits or you take vegetable, like you can put a lot of things in it. The thing is that in tuples you cannot change the values. So that's when we say that tuples are immutable. Immutable. Okay, so this is what is called immutation. That once you have anything present in a tuple, you cannot change it. So for example, let's say so let me refresh this particular. Let me open. So for example, let's say I created a tuple for, let's say, x is equal to I'll discuss how to create a tuple and all that in a bit, but let's say this is x1 2 3. Okay, and let's name it fruits, and then we want vegetables, and then we want fruits, vegetables, and we wanted soft drinks. Okay, so we want soft drinks, so let me write it down, soft drinks. Okay, so we wanted this, so this was my tuple. Now if I run this, I'll get a tuple. Now if I do print x, I will get this this in a tuple form. Now let me check if I have to change this. For example, let's say x1, it is vegetable, right? So if I do like this, I'll get vegetable. Let's say I want to change that x of 1. Now I want to rename it to ice cream. Okay, ice cream. So now if I run this, I'll get an error that tuple object does not support item assignment. So that is the thing, that when you have a tuple object or class, right, you cannot put a new, you cannot replace any value. So once you have put, it's just like that you create, while you were creating the tuple, you created everything, in this bucket, right, in this packet, and you logged it. You have totally logged it. Now you can only look at it from outside. You cannot change the tuple now. So this is the distinction of tuples from list. Otherwise, structurally, it looks similar. And this is called the immutability of tuples. In list, you can change it. In tuples, you cannot change it. So now let's come to our notebook. So in this particular section, yeah, so we have the topics that we are covering for this particular video. So let me just restart the things. Okay. So what all we'll be covering in this particular video is, first of all, we will talk about, so of course we're talking about tuples. Okay, so we'll talk about how to create tuples, and then we will talk about how to add elements. Can we add elements in tuples? Can we remove elements in tuples? We'll see that. Okay, after that, modifying tuple, it is not allowed. Fourth will be accessing tuples. Can we access the tuples? After this, we will check operations. What all operations can we perform on a tuple? Okay, so after the operations, we will check some miscellaneous properties of tuples which are important to us. So these 6 to 7 will be our major topics in this particular video. So I recommend that while I'm navigating between the tabs, I'm coding, you also practice with me in your system, in your Python workbook. Okay, so the first thing that we are doing is creating a tuple, right? Creating a tuple. So there are 3 methods to create a tuple basically. First is, if I talk about the first method, is just you create an empty tuple. Okay, you just create an empty tuple where you just, for example, let's say you name a variable a equal to this. There you can you can create a tuple. Second is you just create a full list of tuple. For example, let's say a is equal to, and just like we created earlier, let's say we created 1, 2, 3, and this is how tuples are created. The third method is by passing a list. Okay, this is called type conversion. So what happens that, let's say a is equal to tuple, we'll use the keyword tuple, okay, and we'll use brackets, and inside this we'll provide a list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and what it will do, it will convert this into a tuple. So let's look at so first of all, let's look at the example here. So how do we create? So that we have an empty list, we can create something like this. Then we can rather provide values as well, or we can use a tuple keyword as well. So let's try all these 3 methods. Okay, so let's create first my empty tuple. So what will I do? Empty. Let me name it empty is equal to, I just created this. So this empty object is become a tuple. Because why? Because I have used this bracket. Now if I want to know the type of empty, so how do I do? So we can do type type, and if you in bracket you write down empty, and if you run this now, it will provide you a tuple. Okay, let's say you want to check further, you do print type and you write down empty. So your tuple is, so it will give you class. So tuple is basically, list is a class, tuple is a class, right? What we are creating are instances, so instances of class. Okay, so this is how it is. Now this was a basic thing. Now let's say we have to create a tuple, for example, the one that we created here. I'll just copy paste from here. We can simply write down like this as well, that we give an instance that is name, and we use the brackets and we provide the values in between. So it can be numeric, character, it can be anything. For example, there are some character, I can enter numeric values as well with this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now when I have to print, let's say I print x, so I will see that I have the tuple of something like this. Okay, so this is a good example of showing this. Now the third part of creating a tuple is when you can pass a list inside this. So what you do, for example, let's say x, so you have to use the tuple keyword. You use the tuple keyword and you use the bracket like this. Inside the bracket you pass a list. So now let's we created a list like this. Now in the list you can provide, for example, 1, 2, so let's say it is 5, 10, 15, and let's say 20. Okay, so this is a list that we provided. Now if you pass into this, now you print x, it will become a tuple. Now it is not in the square brackets. So this is called a type conversion. So for example, let's say this was my list. Let's say this is my list, z is equal to 100, 200, 300 and 400. Okay, so this is my list. So if I do right now type of z, it is a list. Okay, so what I'm doing now, I'll pass this z into a new. So for example, let's say create a tuple p, which is equal to tuple, and inside I will pass z. And now let me print p. So I'll get a tuple. Okay, similarly you can create a list from a tuple. So let's say we have a tuple here, p is a tuple. Now let's say I want to create a list L out of this tuple. So what I will do, L equal to list, and I will simply pass the p which is a tuple. Now it will become a list. Now if I print L, it will become a list. See, now it became a list. So this is called type conversion. You can convert from a tuple to list, or you can convert from a list to tuple. So tuple and list. So you can convert these things like in whatever way you want. So this is what we did in that we have three methods to create tuples. First empty, and then we can create by passing value as well, and then we can use a list and we can pass a list to brackets and we will get the result. So I will just run this particular code here, and if I print grocery list, I am getting tuple. Now if I print special items, for example, let's say I copy this and I print special items, I will get this tuple as well. So this is how we create any tuple. Now let's move to the next topic, that is how to access any tuple, right? That is how you, let's say you have created a tuple. Now do you access the elements of a tuples, access elements of a tuple. Now this is exactly same as I mentioned. The only difference between tuple and list is just that list is mutable, tuples are not mutable. Rest all is same. So for example, if you want to access elements, it is exactly same like what we did for the list. So for example, let's say I have a tuple here. Let's say this is my x, which is equal to, again, let's name it 50, 55. Sorry, this is a tuple, not a list. I'm sorry. 50, 55, 60, 65, and 70. This is a tuple. So let's say again it remains same. If I have to get the first element, I will say x0. Remember here you don't need to so in list we used to do like this when we have to slice. So this notation does not change. So for tuple you cannot do like this. So the notation of slicing will remain same. It doesn't matter if it is a tuple or if it is a list. Okay. So if you have to get the first element, we will do x0 in a tuple. If you have to get the, let's say, last element, what we will do, x minus 1. If you have to get the value from third value, that is second index till last index. So what will we do? X will start with second index and will go till 6, value 6. Okay, so this is how we access elements in a tuple. Let's try that out as well. For example, we have this list. So for example, let me just clear this notebook. Let me create a new notebook. Okay, so let's say we have a tuple. So let's copy the tuple which was created here only. So grocery list. Let's copy grocery list itself. Okay, so we are copying grocery list tuples, and so we have created this. Now let's check what all we need to do. We need to find the first item, second item, last item, right? So if I have to just get the first item, so what will be my first underscore item? It will be equal to grocery list, that is grocery. So I'm just changing its name for my easy convenience, right? It is equal to x, and then we pass 0. Okay, and now I will print first item. Right. Sorry, is it okay? I didn't run this. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I got my first item. So remember, you can either do like this x0 directly, it will give you the result, or you can create an object just like I created first item and then print that object. So it's totally up to you, because when you deal with long codes, you will have to use the variables, right? So it is advised to do like this only. But if you just want to check, you can simply slice directly as well. So let's say this was the first value. Now let us say I want to have my last two values. So what will I do? I will do x, and so first is my starting point. So my starting point will be second element from the end. So what will I do? It is -2. Okay, and what is my last? So I am going till the end. So I will just leave it like this. Okay, and I will put braces like this. So bread and butter. I got my list. Similarly, let's say I want milk and bread, for example. So what will I do? X. Now my indexing will start from 0. It will go till 0, 1, 2. So I'll go till 2. And I have an incremental step of 2 because I'm skipping 1. So I'll put it 2 here. So I'll put it 2 here. And now when I done, so milk x, wait a second. So sorry, yeah, so it has to be, so milk eggs, okay, and 0 1 2, okay, so I need to go till 3. Makes sense, yeah. So 0 1 2, so I have to make it till 3, and then I will make it a 2. Then when I run it, I'll get milk and bread. So this is how it is done. So this is how basically you can access your element from your list of tuples. So let's say if you have to get the first 2 items from the list, what will you do? You have to go from 0 to, so if you have to get from the first 2 items of this list, you will do 0, and then you will go to 0 1. So you want till index 1, so you will use the index 2 here, okay, and now you print it. So you got milk and eggs. Now remember, if there is a 0, you can skip the 0 as well. It is not mandatory to write 0. So if I do skip 0 and I just write down 2, it means that I'm starting from the first index and I'm going till the first. So I'm starting from 0 index and going till the first index. So if I run this, I'll get the same. And what if I do the instead? What if I do this 2 and then I leave bracket? So this will mean I'm starting from index 2. So 0 1 2, and I'm going till end. Now if I run this, I will get bread and butter, which I did earlier as well. And one last thing, if I have to reverse my tuple, what I will do? So start 0. So I have selected the whole thing, right? So for example, if I print it right now, I'll get the same thing. Now if I just do a -1, okay, it will mean I have to reverse the order. So my order is reversed. So this is what we mean by accessing the elements of a tuple, and that's what we have done here. So we have sliced, accessing the last element, first element. So this is a fairly easy concept. We have done this in list as well. Okay, so now we will move to our next topic, that is operations on tuples. Okay, so let me start here. So we are discussing here operations on tuples. Okay, so we'll be checking. So there are 3 major operations which are basically frequently used, I will say. First is concatenation. Second is duplicates, if you have to create duplicate inside a tuples. And third is validity. So for example, you have to check whether an element is present in a tuple or not. So how to do this? In concatenation, remember, it is exactly as list. For example, let's say you have a tuple with name T1 and there's another tuple with name T2. So you can create T3 is equal to T1 plus T2. So let's try this out. If I go to, so if I go to my workbook, let me first of all clear this. So there is a, so this is, let's say this is tuple 1. So let's say T1 is equal to, it is the number from 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, and there is number, and the tuple T2, that is equal to 6 7 8 9 and 10. So I can create a new tuple T3 which is equal to T1 plus T2, and now if I print T3, I will get the combination of all those elements. So this is called the concatenation of any tuple which is present. So that's how we concatenate tuples. So if you have to check this example, what we have in our workbook, so we had a grocery list and special items, right? So we can simply say combined list is grocery list and special items. Okay, now let's move to the next part, that is the duplicate tuples. So how do we create duplicate tuples? So for example, let's say we have T3 here. So we want to create another version of T3, for example. Just like here, if you have a repeated list and we have to create and the repetition. So what we do, that repeated, so for example, repeated is equal to, let's say T3 So let's say we want them to be repeated twice. So we will just multiply it by 2. And now if I print, let's say repeated, repeated. Okay. So I have got the tuples repeated 2 times. Now I can do this like 3 times as well, and it will provide me value. So that is how it is done. So you can play with right now. This might look very basic to you, but when we'll be using advanced DSA question, this becomes very important, and we have its application there itself. Okay, so now we are done with 2 things. We are done with concatenation, and then we are done with duplicacy. So if you see, we are done with concat. So for concatenation, we just take combined list, add them, and for repetition, we just multiply it with the number. The third element, the third thing comes in is we have to check for validity if a particular element is present in a tuple or not. So what you will do, for example, let's say I have T3. So let me print right now T3. I even forgot what is there in T3. So let's say, so there is one, these kind of things are, so 1 to 10 are present in T3. Now if I write down 1 in T3, okay, so it will give me true because 1 is present in T3. So let's say I write down 100 in T3. So it will give me false. So similarly, you can check whether an element is lying in a tuple or not. So that's how it's a Boolean value, either true or false. So you can check it that way. Now let's go here. Now let's run the code here. So if you see, so first of all, we have combined list, we have repeated list into 2, and then we are creating an object is milk in list. So milk in grocery list, we are checking it, and then we are printing all the results. So this is how we get it. We have got the list, we have got the list, and we have got the true value. So this is how it is done. Operation on tuples, how it is done. Now another operation is immutable. So we discussed about these 3. The next one is that because we know that tuples are immutable, so if we try to update anything, it will throw us an error. So let me show you once again. Let's copy this grocery list from here, and let me copy this from here. Now if I do grocery underscore list 2, let's say try to change bread to let me change it to some cold drink. So it will throw an error. So it will because tuple does not support the item assignment. So that is what, so these are the major operations on tuple, basically concatenation, repetition, and membership test. You can also call it membership test. And tuple is immutable, so there is no point of mutating values there. So just try this out on your personal workbooks. You can check this particular example, or you can create some example of, I will suggest create some example of your own, and then you will understand it more. Okay, so we are done with creating tuples, accessing the tuple elements, and doing some basic operations on tuples. Now comes the important part, very important part, I would say, in terms of tuple, that is called packing and unpacking of tuples. So this is heavily used whenever you are using. So we are talking about packing and unpacking of tuples, and unpacking of tuples. Okay, so packing, basically by default, it's a very simple English word, right? Packing means you have set of loose items. So let's say you have set of loose items, you want to put them in a bucket, for example, right? And unpacking means, okay, once you have put them inside, now you want to take them out. So this is called packing and unpacking. So how to do that in tuples, like how to pack items in a tuple. So for example, let us say there are 3 numbers which are just a second. So for example, let's say there are some numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There are 5 numbers lying here and there. What you do, you create in Python, for example, like this: x is equal to 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So if you write down like this, and now if you print x, the Python's functionality is that by default it will convert it into a tuple. So this is very important to know, that if you have some free elements present and you just assign a random variable to them, they will be packed as a tuple, not lists. Because you might be asking, okay, I'm not doing any tuple operation here. Why is it going into tuple only? Because this is a Python property that by default it deals in tuples. So so this is called packing of tuples. So let's check this around. Let's check this with an example. So let me remove this, for example. So let me empty this booklet. Okay. So let us say we have 5. So we have x is equal to 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Let's say I have 5 numbers. Okay. Now if I print x, so we have not specified anything whether x is a tuple or a list. It's Python's functionality that it by default converts them into tuple. So if I now just print x, we see that it is coming in the form of a tuple. Now if I have to just check the type of x, it is a tuple. So that is called packing of a tuple. So if you have to, if things are present, you just provide them a name. That is called packing. Now if I show you, for example, if you have to packing them into a single tuple, so you have shirts, pants, shoes, toothbrush, and you just give a name suitcase. And now if you print suitcase, these all will be packed inside a tuple. So this is called packing of a tuple. Now the reverse of this is called unpacking. So let me show you. So for example, let's say we have a tuple of 5 elements. Let's say we have a tuple of p is equal to, it is 100, it is 200, okay, it is 300, it is 400, and it is 500. So let's say we have a tuple like this. Okay. Now what we want to do, that we want to assign each value to, basically we want to unpack, we want to take this out, we want to take this out, we want to take this out. So one method that comes to my mind is we can either do it by slicing, that I do p and I do 0 and this will give me 100. Okay. And similarly I do all the slicing. Another method that you should know which is used is, for example, let's say if I want to unpack it, so there are 5 values, 1, 2, 3. This is not index, I'm just telling these are 5 values, right? So what I do, that I create p1, I create p2, I create p3, I create p4, and I create p5, and I then just mark them equal to p. So what will happen, Python will by default assign these to the tuples in the corresponding order. Okay. So now you might be thinking, what if there are 6 elements and we have only 4? So we will check that out. Okay. So let's do this. Let's test this out. So let me go here. So let us say we have a tuple p is equal to, so for example, let's say we have 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. So we have a tuple with 5 elements. So what I will do, let's say I do p1, comma p2, comma p3, comma p4, comma p5, and let's say I assign it to be equal to p. So Python will by default assign them to various tuples. Now let me print p1. So let's check what, so p1 should be 10. It is 10. Now let's check with p5. So p5, what is p5? It should be 50. So this is called unpacking. So if you have to unpack, either you do slicing option, which we just discussed, we can slice it like this as well, or we can just simply provide variables like this and it will slice them. So this is called slicing. Now let's take a case, for example, there are 5 elements and I do something like this, p1, comma p2, comma p3 equal to p. So in p I have 5 elements, whereas I am assigning only 3 values here. So let's check what p1, p2, p3 come out to be. Print p1, and let's say I just copy it. Okay, so print p1, p2, and p3. So see, it is throwing me an error, too many values to unpack. So that's why you have to remember that when you are unpacking, the number of values that you are providing, p1, p2, p3, it should be exactly same as the number of values inside the tuple. So this is called a value error. I will talk about errors. There are 2 types of error, type error and value error. I will talk about them in some later video. So this is that you need to know, that when you are unpacking, you need to have all the 5 elements. So if your tuple has 5 elements, you should have 5 variables. So this is called unpacking of tuples. Now let's go back to the example here. So we first of all we packed a tuple like this. Now we want to unpack them. So what we do, item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4 equal to suitcase, and then when we print all, we see that we are able to basically unpack. So this is called unpacking of tuples. Now there is a next part that is called nested packing. So it is a very good concept. It is very extensively used. So what is a nested unpacking is that, for example, if there is a tuple inside tuple, if you see this is a big tuple, there is a tuple inside it, okay, and you want to access some element from this thing. So how will you do? Let me copy this. Let me copy this tuple and let's take it here. So this is the concept. Now, so first let's come to whiteboard. So let us say I have a tuple. There's a nested tuple. For example, there's P is equal to, there is 1, there is 2, there is 3, 4. Okay, this is a tuple inside tuple. There is 5, 6, and there is 7. So let us say there is a tuple like this. So how can I unpack the tuples? So remember, right? So let's do it by slicing option first. So how to do it by slicing option? We know that the index of these tuples are, so this is 0, this is 1. This whole is 2 only here because I am talking about the outside tuple right now. This whole is a part of third tuple, third index, and this is fourth index. Okay, so there are 5, technically there are 5 elements in this tuple and 2 elements have subtuples inside. So first of all, I will deal with the outer tuple. So let's say I want to get access to this. Let's say I want to get to 3, 4. So what I do, if I do P and write down 2, what it will give me? It will give me 3, 4. Let's test this out. Let's test it out. For example, let's forget this example. Let's say P is equal to 1, 2, 3. So what was the example? 3, 4. Okay. So it is 3, 4, and it is 5, 6, and it is 7. Okay. So now when I do P, let's say 2. So it will come to be tuple of 3, 4, right? So there's a tuple inside it. Now if I want to access 4, so what is there? I have got access to 3 and 4. This is a tuple. So P2 is a tuple technically. Now this tuple has 2 elements, 0 and 1, right? So this has 2 indexes now. So this particular tuple has 2 indexes. It has index 0, it has index 1. So if I do further, let's say I want to get access to 4, I will do P, I'll do 2, this gives me 3, 4. Now if after this I pass one more 1, this will give me 4. This is called unpacking of tuples. So for example, let's say if I go here and I just do P2, so by typing P2 I came to 3, 4. Now I want access to 4, so I'll do 1. Now if I write this, I am getting 4. Similarly, let's say I want to get access to 6, or let's say I want to get access to 5. So what will I do? P, first of all I have to check for the outer tuple. So what is the outer tuple? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 3. So if I do P3, I am getting 5, 6, right? Now I have entered 5, 6. Now in 5, 6 I want 5th. So 5th is at 0 index inside 5, 6. So I'll type down 0 and I will get it 5. So this is called unpacking of tuples when there is nested and unpacking. So this is like you can try this example. I'll share this workbook with you. There's also an element like how you can unpack using this method. So remember we had 4 items. So for example, let us say we have a tuple like this. P is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 3, 4. So remember one of the method was that a tuple has So this you just pass P1, P2. So let's say you do T1, comma T2, comma T3, and if you just assign this equal to P, and now if you print T1, if you now print T2, and if you now print T3, okay, so you'll get 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now for the third element you can further create. So instead of writing T3, you can write something like this, T3, comma T4. Okay, so now if you do T1, T2, T3, and if you do print T4, now this will give you all the unpacking values. So that's how you unpack a tuple. Okay, so there are two methods to unpack it. I just spoke. So either you can create values like this, or you use the slicing option. So this is called packing and unpacking of tuples. Now we will do a short example here, weekly grocery planning. Okay, let's solve this particular question. So what do we have? We have a weekly grocery list. If we see this, it's a list of, there are like nested tuples. So we have a list of fruits. We have a basically tuple of fruits, and inside that we have all the 3 fruits. Then we have vegetables, then we have vegetables inside, then we have dairy, and then we have dairy products inside. Our objective is to create the Python code to answer these 3 questions which are present here. So let's see. So let me create this tuple in a separate sheet. So, or maybe let me create it down here. So if I do like this, if I just run it and let me print it, print weekly grocery. So for example, let's say if I print weekly grocery, let me see what I'm getting. Okay, I'm getting a list of tuples. So if you see, this is the first tuple. Okay, so this is the outer tuple. So outer tuple has 3 values: fruits, vegetables, and dairy. And inside each, there are multiple tuples packed. So let's say I want to access the fruit tuple. So what will I do? I will take weekly grocery and I will write down 0. Okay. And similarly, so if I run this, let me see what I'm getting. I'm getting this tuple: fruits, apple, banana, orange. And if I'm doing 1, I'm getting vegetables. Then if I'm doing 2, I'll get something else. So I'll get the dairy. Now let's solve the question. The first question says that we need apple from the fruits section. Okay, so let us say you want apple from the fruit section. So what will you do? First of all, we want to go to fruit section. To go to fruit section, you will have to select the 0 because there are 3. If I talk about this tuple, it is like it is created like this. So there is a tuple. Inside this, there is a fruit section. Okay, then there is a vegetable section, and then there is a dairy section. Okay, so this is fruits. This is a tuple of fruits. Inside this, there's a tuple of vegetables, and there's a tuple of dairy products. Okay, so what is my first question? My first question is, give me apples from fruits. So what will we do? First of all, because how tuples operate, first you deal the exterior tuple, then you go to the interior tuple, right? That's how it works. So first of all, we need to access the outside tuple. So how will we do? We'll do T and we'll do 0. Okay, then we have accessed it, and after this inside, then we will see the fruit tuple and we'll select the corresponding element. So let's go back to question here. Now we have, so if I do just 0, so I am inside the fruit tuple. So if I see, I have fruit, apple, banana, orange. Now fruit tuple has another tuple. This is the first element, and this has another element inside. So this is 0 and 1. Now I need to access the fruit. So what will I do? I will put a 1 here. Okay. Now if I put the 1 here, I am getting apple, banana, orange. Correct. And now I need to, what is my question? I need to get the apple from the fruit section. So now I have reached here. Now I need either 0, 1, 2. So I will put a 0 here. So if I do this, I am able to access the apples. Right? So let's solve the second question. The second question, get spinach from the vegetable section. So first of all, what we need to do, we need to get access to vegetable in the tuple. So vegetable is at first index, right? So I'll do 1. Now if I do a 1, I'm getting vegetables. Now inside vegetable tuple, there are two values, vegetable, and there is this value. So now we need to get to the second value. So what we'll enter, we'll put 1 here. Now if we put 1 here, we have reached carrot, broccoli and spinach, and we need to get spinach. Spinach is at 0, 1, 2. So now we will do 2 here, and so we have got spinach. This is called unpacking of tuples. Now let's solve the third one as well. We want butter from the dairy section. So what we do, we first of all paste weekly grocery. Now we need to go to the dairy section. So dairy is at the number 2, basically index number 2. Now if we do print this, we get dairy, milk, butter, cheese, and we want butter. Butter is at so first of all we have this element, and then we have this element. So we need to choose the second one first of all. So when we do 1, we are getting access to the elements of dairy. Now we need to get to the second one. Now so we will do again a 1, and once we do this, we get butter. So this is how you pack and unpack tuples, right? So this is called nested tuple. So there can be tuples inside tuple, again inside tuple, right? So, but your logic is simple. You go deal with the exterior outer tuple first, then go inside, then go inside, then go inside, and that's how this particular thing works. So deal with the so let's say there's a tuple. There are a lot of tuples. So let's say there are a lot of tuples. So what you will do, first of all, your target is to attack the outside tuple. Once you attack this, then you have multiple tuples. Then you choose which tuple you want. You want this, this, or this. So let's say you want to this. So it will be P. So P0, 1, 2. So it will be P2, right? And then you will access this. Similarly, you can keep on iterating this kind of thing. So that's all about tuple, I would say, right? So I think we had a detailed concept on this. First, we understood how to create a tuple, accessing tuples, then operation on tuples, and then we know packing and unpacking tuples. So this is all we need to do. And then there was an example of weekly grocery planning. So I hope you understood this particular session. Let me save this workbook. So just try this out. I will share the questions as well for the today. Just try to complete them on time so that you get to stay on the group. If you have any question, please comment below on the video, or you can simply WhatsApp us as well on the group, or you can directly DM me as well. So whatever works for you, but make sure you understand these concepts, because when I'm saying it again, once we are going to advanced DSA data engineering questions, these all concepts will be used there. And then you'll find difficulty in understanding, okay, why you have done this, why you have taken, so suppose why you have done something like this, right? So you need to know the concept first. So that's what we are building. If you don't understand, let me know. We will try to cover this in some live workshop as well. But I'm sure this is a fairly easy concept. But still, if you are not clear, you can let us know. So thanks for watching it. I hope you watched the full video, and I see you soon in the next video, which will be about dictionaries. So thanks a lot.